Our 3 o'clock having arrived, we'll call the meeting of the Human Resources, Finance, and Property Committee to order. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All members of the committee are present, either in person or virtually. Public comments, we will be taking comments on the American Rescue Plan Act request in order during the discussion of those items. We are asking that somebody testifying on behalf of something, we're going to limit it to 10 minutes per topic. So you will need to work with within the group of people doing the presentation to limit those comments to 10 minutes for each topic. I didn't receive any other requests to speak. Is anybody here for a different item besides the American Rescue Plan Act request? All right, we'll move on to approval of the December 7th minutes. What are your wishes? Moved by Supervisor Zhang, seconded by Supervisor Lemmer. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval of the minutes will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries. Moving on to operational functions, discussion and possible action by the committee, presentations on the ARPA project submissions and consideration for funding allocation recommended by committee. This is the second round of requests that the committee has looked at. We took action on some earlier in the year, deferred some to the budget, and we will be evaluating these requests along with those other requests that we have pending. At our next meeting, today we will take testimony, and then we'll look at the complete list and make a recommendation to the county board at our next meeting on January 11th. So with that, the first project we have before us is Hami Heights elevator replacement. If you could come forward and identify yourself and where you're from, and we'll go from there. So if you could come up front, and that way you can be recorded and live on YouTube. Or recorded on YouTube.
Sorry about that. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me? All right. Well, my name is Justin Sislevich. I am the executive director at Hami Heights, which is a subsidiary corporation of Hami Inc. of Wisconsin. Hami Heights has been serving Marathon County since 1989. We are a non-for-profit organization that takes care of primarily the frail elderly here in Marathon County. The average age of our residents that we care for is 82 years old, and we serve over 120 individuals in various settings on our Wausau campus, which include independent living, adult day program, and assisted living. The majority of our residents that we serve use assisted devices such as wheelchairs, walkers, canes to safely navigate through our campus. When we look at our residents' financial makeup, 82% of the residents that we have living in our independent living qualify as low income according to the county medium income levels per HUD standards. In our assisted living, half of our residents are funded through the family care program, which is a Medicaid program for those that do not have any assets and are very low income. Within our independent living, we offer an array of services to our residents, which include affordable housing, affordable meals, activities. We have different visits throughout the day, which sets us aside from a number of our other competitors in the community. Our campus preserves affordable housing and provides safety and security to these most vulnerable residents here in Marathon County. So within our campus is the former St. Mary's Hospital building. So it's on the northeast side of town, just a few minutes east up on the hill. The age of our building is anywhere from 54 to 80 years old. And the elevators in that building are the same exact age of the buildings. From when it used to be the old St. Mary's Hospital, Hospital North, it was the same exact structure. And the same elevators that were built in 1940 and 1968. So with the makeup of our campus, Forest Park, which is our independent living, has 2 5-story wings, and our assisted living facility, the Gardens, is a 3-story building. Over the last 5 years, we've gone through a significant amount of maintenance cost to keep these elevators running, over $250,000. Being a small nonprofit organization that takes care of generally a low-income population, that cost, it's significant. And as we've been going through our capital budgeting process, initially on this ARPA grant, the total cost of replacement was $1.2 million. However, after the last few months with COVID, the COVID pandemic and supply shortages, it's actually gone up to $1.4 million. So it's a significant cost that we would have to incur as an organization. So looking at the services that we provide and how we support the affordable housing in the community, we've worked on a capital campaign that began in 2020, and we've raised over $400,000 from local grantees, foundations, and private donors. That includes the Wausau Community Block Grant. There was $83,000, and foundations include the B.A. and Esther Greenheck Foundation, Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin, Judd Alexander Foundation, Dwight and Linda Davis Foundation, as well as donations from some of our residents, even though they are low-income individuals. So our goal is to raise $700,000 to get the first phase of the project going and to continue to raise the additional $700,000 to continue this on. Within our organization, even though we are a non-for-profit organization, we do make a payment in lieu of property taxes. So we give back to the community because we feel that's something very, very important for us to do. And our organization has been hit by the COVID pandemic. We have had residents that had to go through isolation. We were restricted on bringing new people in during times of outbreak. We also saw labor increases because keeping up with the local markets, ensuring that our caregivers were getting adequately paid, we were increasing the rates of caregivers, support staff, and so forth. We also saw increased levels of, supply costs, raw food. So our organization was hit a lot harder than other organizations because we deal and care for a very, very, very vulnerable population. Our ask is that the ARPA funds request for $300,000 to go towards our project. It's not the total amount that we need, but it's going to be a really, really great piece to help us really start going forward and getting our first phase of the project completed, which is our 2 most troublesome elevators on our west banks of our independent living facility. I know I said a lot, and I want to be conscientious of everybody's time. Are there any questions from the committee?
Are there any questions? Supervisor Strong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. If the $300,000 wasn't approved, what would be Plan B? Let's go with that.
Plan B is that we continue to work on our fundraising events. We have done some events such as a purse bingo. It was a afternoon. We raised $3,000 over at Dale's West Lane where people would buy, bingo tickets and they would play bingo to win a designer handbag. My fear is that if we don't get the funds soon, though, being a small nonprofit where we're just meeting our ends, is that we won't be able to get this project taken care of, and we'll continue to have these elevator costs, which makes me worry about the financial stability of the organization. When I look at how many senior living providers have closed, we look at the city of Wausau, there's been, I think, 3 CBRFs that are no longer in business because they care for people that are on the family care program. We look at Riverview Terrace. That RCAC, I believe that's closing, and that's low-income housing. what we need to do is we need to preserve affordable housing for the community because we see our baby boom population only continuing to age, and they're going to need a place to live. At least a place like Forest Park Village, they have the ability to maintain independence and live with individuals around their same age where they have their own apartments and they have activities throughout the day, where every time when I'm here at our Wausau campus, it just amazes me that you have this tight grip of elderly residents. So I fear that it would potentially reduce the ability to serve this population in the community.
Go ahead.
Just another question here as well. You mentioned that there's $400,000 raised. Is that $400,000 committed from the foundation, so actual cash at hand?
This is dollars that are committed as well as some cash in place.
Thank you.
Other questions? If not, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Anybody else wish to speak on this request? If not, we will move on to the Sunnyvale RC Park renovation.
Oh, there it is. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Carson. I live at 101 James Avenue in Rothschild, Wisconsin. I moved here about 20 years ago and opened a business. I work in the healthcare field, and I got into flying RC planes, which has led me to become a trainer and also working with kids in the STEM program. So before we begin, I want to thank you guys for having us out and even considering looking at our application. I also want to give a special thank you to Jamie Pauley in the back there. God bless her. She's been so patient with us. And Lance with his answering of emails of repetitive questions. So Wausau RC Sports, we've been around forever. And we changed locations several times, and we settled upon Sunnyvale Park because of its location, because of the way that we work well with the Parks Department. We've been there for well over 20 years, and we've slowly seen growth. We were stagnant there for a while, and so a few years ago, we partnered with LearnBuildFly, the Wausau Downtown Airport. How many of you have been to the LearnBuildFly hangar down there? There you go. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Just a quick overview of that to see where your money goes. LearnBuildFly are two hangars that were funded through corporations such as GreenHack, SeaTac, private donations, and its sole purpose is to train and teach youth and kids on the STEM program. Build nights are Tuesday night, starts at 7. You guys should go down there and check it out and see what's going on. It's one of the few, if not the only one in the nation of its kind. We have 2 hangars now. Kids can go in there and learn everything from welding and electronics to CAD. There's an engineering group that has leased our second hangar, all to help teach kids and build our STEM program, because as Bob Greenheck, Scott Turner and them said, they can't find engineers and people in the STEM program. They can't hire them, so they have that there to help teach and build the future of our kids and our job force and try and retain people in our area. So with that, we've partnered not only with LearnBuildFly. If you look out there, you're going to see people from LearnBuildFly, Civil Air Patrol, Young Eagles Chapter 640. So the money that we're asking for, you're not funding just people to go out and fly toys and airplanes. You're helping to build 4 programs. Ours, our events, our membership, our youth membership, girls, women, are seeing a value in joining our club and just getting outside. We help hold classes down at Sunnyvale Park. We help teach STEM, electronics, LED, all kinds of things. We also have one of the only AMA-approved multi-rotor GP drone racing course in the nation, or in the region, actually. And Nate back there can talk about that. Nate held, a while ago, national qualifiers. So he has professional races there. He brings people in from all over, and they come in and fly at Sunnyvale. We get, as far as park throughput, we see and work with probably close to or over 1,000 people per year down there. We host Boys and Girl Scouts. We host Rural Virtual Academy. We have, matter of fact, RVA created a video, Sky's the Limit. And they're thinking of going down to Sunnyvale, down at Man-Made Lake. Jamie, they want to have a full day down there and pull close to 500 people down there. And they want to pull our RC club in there as well to help fly and train and teach the kids. So the skills that they learn not only at Sunnyvale, LearnBuildFly and Young Eagles, they cross over to what we're doing here. In your application, you're going to see 2 reference letters. One from a local business, the other's from one of the folks at LearnBuildFly. Now, Lance sent me the link to be able to send reference letters so you guys can see what's going on and how we impact the community. But I think I counted 30 emails there, and the email links didn't work. So if you want, with your permission, I can hand just 3 out, and you guys can see what it is we're doing. I just got an email from Rural Virtual Academy.
We will, if you give us one, we will
There you go.
put it in the packet.
Perfect.
So it'll be available for
Yep.
the public to see.
You can, for your notes, you can also look us up. LearnBuildFly is the Wausau training program. Wausau RC Sports, we have Facebook and YouTube and all of that. But in reviewing the application, what I did was, you have to qualify, as you well know, for money based on whether you fall into this category, one of these categories. I did a deep dive into the Wausau website, and I found your future growth plan. It wasn't easy, but I found it. And so where applicable, I actually, in italicized areas and stuff, I put in there where we fall into your long-range plans and goals. And we fit within that as well, for training, education, bringing in community development, holding larger developments and events and things. So that's pretty much the short version. I mean, you guys have read it. Have you guys been down to Sunnyvale at all to look at the airfield and see what we do down there on a summer? Yeah, we have training programs. We graduate upwards of 12 young pilots per year that go on to take their skills into college. We have at LearnBuildFly right now, we've got a young lady who's 15. She's halfway through her commercial pilot's license. We have another folks learning to weld right now are all women and girls under the age of 18. One is so good at it that C-Tech has hired her. She now works at C-Tech at the age of 16. How cool is that? We have folks that have welded our planes together. We have, so this is what your money's going for. It's not going for just some people to hang out and fly airplanes. So, and to your point, what happens if we don't get the money? Well, I'll tell you what will happen, it makes our life a lot harder. More and more airfields in our state and across the nation are going under. Merrill lost theirs. Shawano is on life support as we speak. They don't bring in enough money to even pay for the gas to mow the lawn. So we're slowly becoming a dying breed. We're able to succeed because we've partnered with the community. We're outreach. We just donated some stuff for a cancer fundraiser to raise money for a young lady, and we can get into that later. What What other avenues do we have to raise money? Well, private donations, fundraisers, we rely on the public to help raise money, but it'll take a lot longer. And not having this funded limits what we can do. We're at the point where we have outgrown what we can do, and we're gaining more attention, both state and nationally, as to what we do here. And Mr. Becker back there is our chapter president, and he can show you we were actually in a national magazine not too long ago. When we go to EAA, how many of you been to Oshkosh to EAA? They know about us here. They know about Wausau. They know about our airport, Air Venture Cup race. 25th anniversary is coming back here for the 3rd year. Did you guys know that? That's unheard of. So this is what we're helping to organize and bring to the area. So with that, if you guys have any questions, even in the audience back there, fire at me.
I'm sorry, but the discussion and questions will be limited to the committee.
Oh, okay. What do you guys have? Yeah.
Supervisor Zhang?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, I just want to say that I have a youth. I'm going to be referring to you guys very soon here as well, too, who wants to be a commercial pilot. So, but the question I'm going to be asking is, I notice here that there's really no other funders or entities that you've approached for additional funding. The only ones, obviously, the only thing I see here is that Wausau RC will be contributing to $7,500. Are there any other funders, foundations, private organizations that you're going to be approaching to help offset this cost at all?
Well, for us, that 7,500 was a major dig, being a small RC club, okay? And just to give you a little bit of background, and that's a great question, how come you didn't reach out to others? Great question. One example down there is Scott Turner and Bob Greenhack. I ran into them out in town, invited them to the field, didn't know who they were, okay? Bob and Scott went out there, they saw our runway, and they said, have you tried raising money for this? We said, yeah. Next thing you know, he's writing a $25,000 check to replace our runway. So now, we have a brand new asphalt runway, so we've improved the park. Having an asphalt runway is something rare in RC world, and it's sought after. Scott Turner and Bob asked about our training program, asked what our future growth is. We presented a 5-year plan. Before we knew it, they wrote us a check for $10,000. We needed, like our fun fly, we've outgrown porta potties. He said, you guys really need a trailer bathroom, but we don't have water. So we were limited. So he rented ours and then
Your
gave
10
us-
minutes is long up, but
Okay.
I want
Yeah,
to, please,
yeah.
if there are questions, we're going to be fair. That's going to conclude the comments at this time relative to that request. We will, at the end of the meeting, open it up for anybody else that wishes to speak, but we are limiting to 10 minutes per topic in order to try to be fair to everyone, so.
Yeah. They've donated over 55,000 road checks to pay for stuff. And I think what we're asking for is a drop in the bucket as compared to them building hangars, training programs, and field houses and stuff. So that's why I didn't ask.
All right, we thank you, and it's an interesting project, but we will, if somebody wishes to comment at the end of the meeting, we will take those comments. But again, we would ask that people for a topic limit the comments to 10 minutes in order for us to be fair to everyone. The City of Mosinee Library Building Exterior Renovation, Mr. Gates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jeff Gates. I'm the Mosinee City Administrator. As the committee will recall, I was here during the first round of funding for the dessert library building renovation that would involve restoring the original windows of the building as well as doing some tuck pointing on this National Registered historic building. we are looking for $50,000 to help fund the window restoration. Because this is a national registered building, we have to do the windows in accordance with their requirements. Also, the building needs some tuck pointing. It's a very old building that was originally constructed in 1898, one of the few of the national registered buildings outside the greater Wausau area. The reason why I'm here is, again, to ask the committee for any type of funding in ARPA that you can provide for this project. The second reason is that I'm here is after our original request, the city was concerned about the message that we received from the committee regarding the reason for denying our application or not recommending approval of our application. And the reason that we received was because we have a landlord-tenant relationship here. Ladies and gentlemen, that can't be further from the truth. Our relationship is a partnership between the county and the city to provide a library service for the residents of Southern Marathon County. That's what we're doing with this partnership, is providing services that are important to the kids, important to the adults, and having a building available for such services. In fact, in case the committee members weren't aware of what the county actually pays under the lease agreement, we have a lease agreement, yes. We have a lease agreement because attorneys like to have such agreements. Sorry, Lance, I couldn't resist.
There's a point well taken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But that's why we have a lease agreement, okay? We could have a handshake and still have the county providing library services in there. But just so the members of the committee know, what do we pay as part of that? In 2021, the county paid the city $3,200 to be in that building. And the only thing you pay for, why is it $3,200? Because that's what our actual cost was to provide janitorial services within the building. How many landlord-leasee relationships do you have where the landlord provides janitorial services within the building? Not too many. Again, because this is a partnership. We provide snow plowing and snow removal, which we're going to need here in the next 48 hours, unfortunately. Again, just to point out this is a partnership. We would love to get the full funding, but we would be asked as part of our partnership that any funding that you folks have that you would be willing to provide, we'd be more than happy with as part of our partnership. The reason why we haven't gone to any of the foundations yet, in case I get asked that question, is because we don't want to go back to the well too often. We just redid the roof on that historic building a few years ago, and the community foundation stepped up big time for that and assisted us with redoing the roof of a very large building, as you can see from the pictures there. Not an easy roof to redo. In fact, that roof, you can't tell it from the pictures, we did do residential shingles on that. That's actually a metal roof. So that thing will last forever. It just looks like it has asphalt shingles on it. So, again, just here to ask for any funding assistance that the county can provide, again, for our partnership that serves our residents of Southern Marathon County and the greater Mosinee area. Thank you again for the opportunity to be before you this afternoon.
Thank
I'll
you.
be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Zhang is on a roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to ask the same question as well, too. If the $75,000 or the $50,000 was not approved, what would be Plan B?
Plan B would be if there's no funding or some.
Let's go with both.
The city, it's the intent of the city that we would go back to the well then to try to see if we can get some foundation money. And then the city is going to look at borrowing some money to get it done. It's got to get done. These windows are deteriorating bad. And if you know brick buildings, you can't let them get too past the point of where tuck pointing doesn't even do a fix.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions? If not, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mosinee Fire District fire truck, because there's somebody from Mosinee Fire. Just Mosinee Fire Department?
He was here, but
Yeah,
he
he
left.
left. He might have gotten paged, I don't know.
He may come back. So we have Mosinee Fire District PPE as well. All right, we'll move on to then CATS 2023 staffing funding.
Hello, my name is Kathy Buckley, and I am the director of Keep Area Teens Safe. Our mission at Keep Area Teens Safe is to serve the community by providing at-risk youth ages 12 to 17 with a safe and stable living environment that results in the decrease of human trafficking, drug addiction, untreated mental illness, and other adverse risk factors that affect the lives of youth in our community. In addition to secure housing, CATS provides trauma-informed care, nutritious meals, case management, academic support, connection to mentorship, mental health resources, and connections to other community services to ensure the support and care of each youth. Our model is to provide a safe and welcoming transitional home for up to 8 youth at a given time. These youth seek our services due to homelessness, neglect, and/or abuse, caregiver abuse, poverty, mental illness, substance abuse, loss of family income, conflict in their home environment, and/or human trafficking. Our home serves as a voluntary safe haven for up to 20 days, while our outreach staff works with other organizations to secure a long-term and safe living environment. A youth who is court-ordered can stay up to the length of the court order if there isn't a stable situation which within that youth can be placed. Youth not only experience homelessness on a nationwide scale, but also at the local level. In 2018, the U.S. Department of Education public school report stated that 11.8% of high school students living in Marathon County reported sleeping other than the family home for an extended period of time. We say homelessness doesn't exist amongst our youth. The problem is not it doesn't exist. The problem is the definition of homelessness. There's 2 definitions. There's a definition that we abide by and by the school system is if there is not a permanent address, they are considered homelessness. Other organizations view that differently. If there is a roof over their head, they're considered to have a home. That is not stable. That is not a home. That is not a standardized environment for which the youth to flourish in. Okay. I get a little excited when I talk about it because it is a conflict. So Keep Area Teens opened its doors March 15th of 2001 and has served 62 youths. Of these 62 youth, 43 were residents of Marathon County. When a youth comes into our program voluntarily, there is never a charge to that youth or family. That's a total of $160,000 that we've put out for youth in Marathon County. And yes, the big controversy has been that we serve youth from out of county. We've served only 19 kids from out of county, and those counties do fund those youths. But those youths are brought into our community. They attend our public school system. They attend therapeutic services in our community. They're involved in giving back in the community, and they choose to remain in this community because many communities do not have services available. We are the closest shelter of any similarity to us right now is in Sheboygan, getting $375,000 from their county to support them. At this time, we do not get city dollars. We do not get county dollars. All our funding comes through grants, which I'll explain later. The average stay is 18.5 days. How do we make a difference in that amount of time? We immediately get in contact with the schools. I've got letters of support from counties, a mother here in our community who had sought out help for years. found out about us through a parent cafe we're now doing in the Wausau School District. And we have provided more relief than she has received from services in the community. And I have a statement saying that. It has brought peace to her home. It has brought her a chance to get the help and services she needed to deal with the problems with that youth and the trauma surrounding that youth. So we're working with the school systems. We're going into the school systems, meeting with families, ensuring the kids are going to school, stay in contact with social workers every single day, if need be, about attendance, performance, having family meetings to build that relationship and try to resolve some of the barriers to that youth returning home. We offer support groups in the community, teens supporting teens, LGBTQ, parent cafe at the high schools. That's all a cost that we bear. We do not receive any funding for that. We provide a free meal, a group session, and then some socialization time. A lot of our referrals come from kids who have come to those support groups and seek additional help. We are a nonprofit organization that is generously funded by private donors, grants. We have a full-time voluntary grant writer. That's what it takes. With a budget of $550,000, we have a full-time. We seek out every single opportunity, covering utilities, utility costs, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, groceries, house supplies, marketing costs to get outreach out there so people know we're out there and exist. Activities for the kids, haircuts, clothing, food. So we are currently in need of funds for operational costs that exceed our grants and donations received. We have been generously supported by the Wausau community through the Community Foundation of Central Wisconsin. We have received a city block grant in the past. The B.A. Esther Greenheck Foundation, Aspirus Hospital, multiple local organizations. So we are writing grants all the time. It is a fundamental for our local youth to feel supported and cared for. At CATS, we can provide this support and make a difference in the lives of young people. Our goal, I worked with North Central Healthcare. I ran a substance treatment program, a mental health program. What I saw is my age of individuals coming into the substance program with long-term addiction and mental illness was dropping. It was going from mid-30s and above to an 18-year-old coming in now injecting in the neck because he has been an addict since the age of 13, falling short, right? Aging out of the youth system, but the adult system doesn't start till they're 18. What happens? They resort to crime to feed themselves, to feed addiction, to find a place to live. They're breaking into places to sleep, okay? Yes, we have social services. We have the police department. Most of the kids coming into our system, and I'm not discrediting any of those services, but let's be honest, there are some bad raps out there. Kids who have been in the foster care system who it hasn't gone well. And so this is what these kids hear and see. So they don't want to get involved in that. They want to find other ways. Coming in to keep area teens safe, getting them back in school, what's important, building those family relationships, building support groups is what we need to do. I had 3 severe cases that I worked 30 hours trying to get a 3-party petition to get that youth and prevent him from being in the juvenile justice system. 30 hours in 1 week. Wrote a petition, never got a response. That youth is now in a youth detention center. It could have been prevented. Another youth, just saw him out on Marathon County, begged for help, begged for help. We need to get this kid help. Now he's a statistic in the criminal justice system. We got to stop it somewhere. We got to have services like Keep Area Teens Safe to prevent this from happening. They need an advocate. They need someone to not push them towards the wrong direction. These are the future residents of our community. And if we don't stop it now, what's this going to look like when these kids hit 18, 19, 20 years old, 17? One of my kids who was with us, the one I advocated for, is now sitting in jail. It doesn't have to happen. Okay, so I just want to read one quote because this one wasn't passed on to you, and she knows I'm saying her name. Hello, my name is Mary. I am introduced to cats at an event at Horace Mann Middle School. I didn't realize at the time how beneficial it would be to me. I have recently become a guardian of my grandchildren. Mental health and addiction, she now is guardian of 5 grandchildren. At times it can be very challenging. I have a teenage daughter with behavioral needs. I truly appreciate all the support and guidance both she and I were given when I needed a break. It's not only about the youth, it's about the caregiver too. How do you take care of 4 younger youth when you're struggling with a granddaughter has...
Kathy, if you could wrap up.
I will, I'm sorry. The staff worked with my granddaughter day and night, was supportive to me. The staff were kind and supportive. Cats is a godsend to this community. And we need to continue. And that's why we need funding to continue. Okay.
Are there any questions? Supervisor Jean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask the same question, but before I ask that question, I just want to give a little context as well. It seems like the $432,000 is operation. You're requesting for operational funding. Is that correct here? So, if the county decides not to award it, what is the? I'm assuming that you're going to be asking for funding from local grants, but I'm going to change the question a little bit here. If the county did award you $432,000 for this year, what is the plan to sustain that funding moving forward? Because this is ARPA dollars, and it would be more of a one-time funding rather than a ongoing funding. So I'm just curious about the plan as well.
Well, our plan is to continue to attempt to get county funding on a regular yearly basis like other shelters do in other counties. Now we've only been open just almost 2 years. So once you have that longevity, we are now able to apply for state and federal funding. So we will continue to move in that direction with the WAR program. So we're, again, now that there's some longevity with us and we have numbers, we can now start applying more at the state and federal level as well.
Other questions? If not, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
All right, next is the Village of Stratford Streets renovation. Somebody from the village present? Someone from the village present? No. Wausau Center, Wisconsin Convention and Visitors Bureau Travel Center. They are front and center. Or front and to the right or left, depending on.
Yeah, I would think so. It's in, should I put it in again? There you go. Sorry. Yeah, top. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The door has to stay open, since it's an open meeting, thank you.
Sure.
That's okay.
Click on that. There you go.
Are you trying to?
He's just opening the PowerPoint presentation. But I'll start talking now. Good evening, good afternoon, committee members and public. My name is Tim White. I'm the Executive Director of the Wausau Central Wisconsin Convention and Visitors Bureau, known as Visit Wausau. Tonight we want to submit a proposal for the building of a visitor center for Marathon County. And you'll notice that we have some specs that are up that will be reviewed shortly in a couple of moments. Also, committee members, I believe you have a one sheet either with you or in your packet that you can access as well. We wanted to kind of go over a little bit about the impact that visitors and tourism has in the Marathon County. If you follow along from the economic benefit of tourism, you'll notice that last year was a great recovery year for the state of Wisconsin. Almost $21 billion in total revenue for the state in terms of tourism dollars, and thousands of jobs. The economic benefits in Marathon County as well for last year. We received $403 million in tourism benefits, supporting 3,473 jobs that were directly related to tourism. So, there we go, thanks. You can go to the next slide. That'd be great. So, there are a lot of great benefits from tourism and visitation. And not only do we have direct benefits as well, but we also have secondary and tertiary benefits as well, because when people come to visit Marathon County, they're also considering, if they have a great experience, the potential of living and working in the county, and we know that that is a huge need for municipalities and counties everywhere. The economic benefits, are right there in front of us, but we wanted to tell you a little bit about the background, the history of our CVB, as we call it. So if the next page has some images, if you remember, the history of the CVB actually started Wausau's Chamber of Commerce in the early 1900s, decided to form a committee to go after visitors and tourism because they saw the value of increasing revenue. And a number of years later, the CVB spun off from the Chamber in 1987. It officially was formed by Mosinee and Rothschild as a 501c6. It was declared the tourism entity in Marathon County. And if you can see, if you remember the TP that's in Mosinee, that was where our original location was. Flash forward to 2010, and the CVB moved downtown to Wausau. Originally it was going to be on the corner, but then it was ended up on Washington Street, just a couple doors down. It was beautiful, had a lot of great offices, but not a lot of foot traffic because it was not very high profile for people to visit. Flash forward again to 2019, the organization has gone through some staffing changes with the pandemic, like we all have. And in between executive directors, the board bought a property that is on County Road NN, just going to Granite Peak. How many people here remember the Shakey's Pizza building? That's right. No pizza was found there, but we had, it's a nice location. It overlooks Granite Peak. The location is awesome because 3 million drivers drive north every year on the interstate highway there. It's the convergence of both 51 and 29. And you can see Granite Peak from right from outside the door. So as we explored the building after it was purchased, we did an assessment, and you can turn the thing. And what was inside were some issues, structural issues, some mold, some asbestos, things like that. And so it was assessed through a number of builders and engineers and architects that it would be better to tear down that structure and put up a smaller, more efficient structure that would serve the community and serve the county. And so we'll showcase that to you in a moment. You can see some of the architect's renderings of that building. Basically, the next slide, we'll go to the grant proposal. So this new building really fits the profile of what Marathon County is about. We're about outdoor rec, we're about agriculture, we're about small business, we're about many cultures, but we have a great profile, and so we want a building that reflects that, a visitor center. It will have a space for rotating displays, staff offices, and a community conference room. The rotating displays are going to highlight not only the fun things to do in Marathon County, but also what it's like to live and work here. It will have parking for bigger vehicles like RVs, towing, trailers, and boats. You really can't park a boat trailer down on Washington Street. And we intend the building to be used not only from visitors, but by locals wanting information and maybe some merchandise about the Marathon County area. And we want to be able to showcase what Marathon County has to offer. We also, in the plan, have a green space for families to rest and refresh. And our total estimated cost is $750,000, and so we're asking for an ARPA grant from the county for $600,000 with additional funds to be contributed by the municipalities and by business stakeholders. And here's some of the benefits, one more slide, of having this type of facility in the area. One is it's going to showcase, like I said, the best of Marathon County. And I really see our role as recruiting tourists and visitors to the county, because the county has so much to offer. It's not just the municipalities that exist here, but it's also the farm to table things, like Stony Acres Pizza or the other farms that are doing some amazing things. It's the cheese industry. It's the ginseng industry. It's the different cultural aspects that can showcase to people what a great place this is to visit, but also to potentially live and work. And that's what we want to do as well. We want to showcase living and working here. Based on the location of the building right off of NN, it will also have a high profile that millions of people will be able to see from the road. We want them to stop. I did some research about a year ago in Chicago and asked people what they knew about central Wisconsin. They knew the town Wausau, and there were two things about the area that they knew. One, Granite Peak was there, and secondly, this is the place we drive through to go up north. And that was a huge answer. And so, having this center will help showcase that we are right here and we are a four-season destination. Its location also reinforces Granite Peak's success. Granite Peak is our #1 tourist entity destination in the area, and we want to, benefit from that as well. And then our staff is committed to showing visitors the hospitality that both local vendors and businesses and shop owners already show them. The community will benefit from the conference room, from the exhibits, and more. And the county will have a presence in the high-profile area. Right now, if you want to see anything from the county, you got to drive here, which, sometimes I don't know what this building represents. It's just kind of here. So this will allow the county to be able to showcase what it is and does. And we'll have displays for municipalities. The county will expand awareness, and it will persuade visitors to stay overnight instead of passing through. It's a part of our total change of brand so that we are seen as a four-season destination that is a place to come and stay and enjoy, and then ultimately consider living and working here too. So that's it from my side. Jody, do we have?
You have 10 seconds.
Well, okay. There's our financials. Everything we have is an open book. You can always check out all of our information and stuff online as well. But we're grateful to be considered for these grant dollars. So thank you.
So any questions? Supervisor Jean, anticipating.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question, Tim. You're requesting 600,000 out of the 750,000. What is Plan B if it is not awarded, or if there were only partial of that $600,000 was awarded?
Yeah, Plan B would include asking for more monies from the municipalities as well as foundation grants. We've talked to some foundations, and they really want to see more specifics. Before, when I've come to them, we did not have the architectural drawings and the plan and stuff. And then any other grants or funding that we can find, we'll apply for as well. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Supervisor Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you leave, real quick question for you. It looks like your staffing numbers have gone down from 19 to today. How do you anticipate staffing if you think that the traffic will increase? What's your plan for keeping it open, or what hours do you have for that?
That's a great question. What we're going to do is we're going to recruit local residents to work there as well. So we're rolling, in addition to an intern program. So Stevens Point, as a CVB, has a great internship program. We're going to work on that as well this year. We've already been talking to UWSP and NTC about having interns in place. But I also envision using some of our recent retirees, some of the people who, I envision, I've already spoken to folks at the landing about coming in and potentially recruiting volunteers to staff it. And then the times that we can't staff it, we'll actually have an entrance with information that will be accessible, off hours as well. So.
Any other questions? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
That is the last of the topics. What we did typically at the Board of Health meetings was we went through the business first and then came back to the people. Or we can open it up for additional testimony. What's the preference of the committee? Supervisor Zhang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would be comfortable with allowing any other individuals that wish to address in regards to one of these topics specifically to address the committee.
All right. Is there an objection? If not, does anybody else wish to speak? I know that there were a number of people that were here for the Sunnyvale RC Park renovation. If you could come up and identify yourself. We'll have him come up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. Thank you for considering us for the grant for the Wausau RC Sports Field at Sunnyvale.
You could identify yourself for the record.
My name is Bill Becker. I am president of the Wausau RC Sports Group. Been president of the Wausau RC Sports Group for 6 years. We've gone through a lot of changes in the last 6 years with our education programs, being called a TAG program. It's Take Off and Grow. The program is sponsored by our governing body, which is the AMA, the Academy of Model Aeronautics, and they're out of Muncie, Indiana. Our club has been associated with them since 1967. We've had various flying sites throughout the area, and we've always tried to get youth involved with our sport. We've tried with, other training programs, and our latest program is most successful because of the latest technologies in model aviation, where some of these planes fly themselves. So with that, our program has expanded greatly with private donations from the Green Heck and other club members help keep our educational programs going. And then our association with the LearnBuildFly program is kind of a feeder group into LearnBuildFly, the EAA, the Young Eagles program, and basically is a goal to get youth involved in STEM education. We've been nationally recognized this year in July. Our worldwide magazine for the Academy of Model Aviation, we have an article here that talks about our TAG program. And because a lot of these clubs have been in decline in recent years from the advent of video games and other distractions for the youth, where we have this program that get the kids outside and get them involved in an educational program has expanded our club. So they mention in this article specifically the Wausau RC Sports Group based in Wausau, Wisconsin. So that is our goal as a club, is to expand our membership to include youth to go on in an aviation background.
Are there any
questions?
Are there any questions for Mr. Becker? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else that wish? And I see Galen, you'll be next. You'll be after this one, so. Again, if you could identify yourself for the.
I'm Lily.
I'm Jessica Schaefer, and we are both members of Civil Air Patrol and also of LearnBuildFly, and participate regularly with both organizations and also with RC Sports Club. And we've been privileged to work with them and to have my children work with both groups and to see the extreme benefits there, and especially coming out of a time of COVID where we've seen a lot of negative impact on education and our youth. It's amazing to see these organizations available to strengthen our communities and our youth, provide them with a lot of opportunities. And we're looking at a future that's more automated, and with Civil Air Patrol working with UAV and drones for aerial footage, for search and rescue. We're providing that education, and working with RC Sports here in Wausau gives us a huge benefit where these students, youth can go into the future already knowing and experiencing these things. We don't have the opportunity otherwise. We're looking at kids that are coming through education and still not introduced to these topics at all, which are already in use in our military, in private sector, and engineering. So we're equipping our kids to go out and support our community infrastructure as well. And we're hearing from the community businessmen, women that are actively recruiting, saying we are seeing more in your teens and kids coming out of the community with RC Sports and LearnBuildFly and Civil Air Patrol than we're seeing out of our colleges, and that's a great testimony. So I really appreciate what they're doing there, and I think that the budget they're looking for to be able to bring out power and water to the sports field will increase their opportunities to help educate our youth. So I appreciate that.
So any questions? I have a question for Jamie. I think that this called for a point well. Is this all within the city? And what we need to extend versus a private well versus a extending water lines to it. It's not necessarily for you, but it's.
I have to verify it, but this is on close to the juvenile detention center, and it's right next to the sheriff's storage area where we do have water too.
Right.
So I do believe, yes, it would be we could bring in city water there. Or it would be a well because of the wetlands. That's what we talked about, right? A point well because of the wetlands that are there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? So you would be then consistent with the city's code and cross-connection and?
Yes.
Supervisor Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question is for Jamie. I saw this as being similar perhaps to the pickleball courts, as where we have a local sports club that's partnering with the Parks Department. I wasn't here when that discussion was being had, and I just wanted to know if you could speak about the similarities or differences between that relationship and the potential for this relationship. Thanks.
Sure, good question. So a lot of the things we do within our park system have partnerships with all of our local service groups. So the partnership with the RC Sports is no different than, well, it's a little bit different than pickleball, but it's maybe a little not as different as what we have with our agreement with like Nordic Ski Club and some of the improvements. So we have agreements for uses for our facilities. We don't have a specific agreement with pickleball. That's the only thing that makes a difference. But what we have is we have groups that come to our department that ask for space to use. And so this dates back, as Mike said, over 20 years of when they came to the county looking for this space. It was unused park land at the time. We do have a written agreement that I believe is a 5-year agreement right now that we renew and we look at as far as the uses. But it lays out specifically what they're responsible for, what our department is responsible for, and the access to the facility and their ability to do these community events. That's the idea. They have done all of their upgrades. They do almost all of their maintenance. We do a little bit here and there. Similar to our relationship with Seawalk and Nordic Ski Club, where they help maintain our trails and put in funding for infrastructure, and then that improves our park system in general. So this is very similar to many of those other groups with a actual agreement that we have in place with them for use of this property.
Okay. All right, any other questions? If not, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on any of the topics before us relative to the ARPA request? Galen, you're come on up.
Gayleen Roden, Town Administrator for the Town of Red Mountain. I wanted to speak on behalf of the Visitor Center. And yes, it is in our community, so there's obviously a special place in my heart for this facility. And I have been also a participant in the building committee. And so I had an opportunity to see the actual inside of the old Shakey's building. And yes, the memories and the smell of burnt pizza or what have you is still lingering in the air, but it is something that is going to need a lot of work. I just wanted to touch on a few things. One being that it wasn't mentioned, but it was part of your packet, is the amount of support that it is given for this particular application. If you notice, the Chamber of Commerce and our surrounding municipalities are supporting this project. So it really is a community effort, not just because it benefits Rib Mountain, but it really benefits the entire area. And as far as on Rib Mountain, if you had an opportunity to head in that area, there's some really special things that are happening. A lot of like a rebirth that is happening in that corridor. We have Connexus Credit Union that is right now in the process. You can see the frame of the building already being built. So there was a building tore down, the Cadorzy project that they're working at the corner of County R and Double N. The other thing is the old Tanglewood property, as we call it. Those familiar with the Wausau Rib Mountain region remember the bowling alley that existed, and that was torn down. The town of Rib Mountain actually owned that property for a period of time, and we sold it to a local business owner. And so we will soon have a new restaurant. Matter of fact, I drove by today during my lunch hour, and they had the footings in the ground. So again, it's just about that whole area. Tim touched upon it. You can see the ski hill. It is certainly a corridor to our entire area. And just showcasing our communities. It has plenty of space of parking, and I really think that whole area is going to end up redeveloping and this would just add to it, a nice facility such as the visitor center.
Any questions of Administrator Oden? Supervisor Hart?
Thank you. Mentioned in the application was potential commitments from contracted municipalities. I wanted to know, because you're with the town of Rib Mountain, if you could speak to, and I know they probably haven't made that decision yet, but if you could speak to any potential investments that the township could be making into this. And I would love to ask the other municipalities too, but obviously they're not here. But I just wanted to kind of get a sense of that. Thank you.
You know, I anticipated this potentially being a question. So there hasn't been actual formal ask. There has been some conversation, I can tell you that. So we certainly, Rib Mountain has its own Rib Mountain Tourism Commission, and that is something that certainly could be considered. So we are been willing to be a partner all along. Even during the COVID times, we've been a partner with the Visitors Bureau. So we'll continue to support, and if it means supporting of the Visitor Center in some sort of way, certainly that is something that's we're open to and having that conversation. So, and Tim is aware of that as well.
Supervisor Zhang?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question's not directed toward Galen, so I'll direct it towards Tim. But I noticed that I didn't see a support letter from the city of Wausau, so I'm just kind of curious, are they supportive of this as well, too?
If you could use your microphone, too.
Yes, they are very supportive. They voted to support it. Just getting the letter through administratively was not possible. So.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? If you could again come forward. Again, if you give us your name and where you live.
Hi, my name is Jacob Buemi. I am 16 years old. I live here in Wausau. I have been a member of the Wausau RC Sports for about 4 years now. I'm also a member of LearnBuildFly in Chapter 640. The Wausau RC Sports has, for me, always been about teaching me about STEM, how to grow, and I've even had I've been able to teach even other youth, kids as young as 3 years old, 4 years old, been able to get them on a transmitter and fly and learn about all these different parts of STEM, 3D printing, laser cutting, pretty much anything you can imagine. And been able to see them grow and the smile on their face after when we're done.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Anybody else wish to testify? If not, that will conclude the comments. We will move on. And again, from a process perspective, we've asked administration to go back and look at the previous round's capital requests. We deferred a number of those requests, or ARPA requests, to the budget, and some of those were funded, some of them were not. We'll bring back that list. We have a number of commitments that we've made relative to broadband and North Central Healthcare. We want to bring those back in sort of a status update, and we'll look at all of those projects. I know that Supervisor Baker has a request in, and I know that there are some others, and so we can have all of them before us so we can prioritize them and make a recommendation to the county board. Supervisor Zhang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want a little clarification. When are we expecting for that to occur, for that actual discussion? Would that be in January, February?
January 11th.
Okay, thank you very much.
Which is our next meeting. All right. We'll move on then to utility easement, 210 River Drive. I'll call on Michael Ferner, the Corporation Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your packet, there's some documentation relative to this request. This was a request from TDS. They are looking to secure a permanent utility easement on the 210 River Drive property. That's where our Conservation Planning and Zoning Department is. It's a property that's right along the river. They've offered to compensate the county with a one-time payment of $1,500. They're also offering to indemnify the county against any damages that would occur if based on their access. So this committee is in the position to approve or not approve that type of easement. I guess one piece that I think the committee should consider is this particular property and where it's located. This is a property that has been discussed as potentially a property that the county may be divesting itself of. So a consideration I think the committee should make is, whether we want to encumber the property with a permanent easement, what that looks like, just something I think the committee should consider. So I certainly can answer any questions about the easement to the best of my knowledge.
I had a question relative to it. This is for the benefit of the railroad in TDS or just TDS?
It is to benefit a customer of TDS. I believe it's going to across the water, I think to the old Wausau paper mill building.
For the chamber?
Right.
I guess my concern in looking at this is that there are opportunities to run it within the right-of-way, both the railroad right-of-way and the city right-of-way, without encumbering the property. And if you grant a permanent easement to a property, it means that the future owners of that property need to work around that easement, which could complicate its use and increase the development cost associated with that property. And in light of the fact that there are alternatives, I don't think it's necessarily in the county's best interest to grant that easement at this time. Chair Gibbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was obviously, this is going to be an excess property at some point in the future. It is anticipated that this development may be part of the river district in the city of Wausau. Putting an easement, a utility easement in there may hamper future development or at least complicate it. If there's other alternatives, I would be in favor of them using other alternatives for an easement off of our property, because I just see it being a complicating factor that is not necessary.
Other questions, comments? Supervisor Lemmer.
Sorry, green alert. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it possible to do a easement while we own the property and it could expire, or is it just given that it has to be permanent?
So there are temporary easements. The issue when you're using utilities and laying actual utilities in the ground or above the ground is typically those don't go with temporary easements. You need some kind of permanent access for the utility holder. So a temporary easement is a thing. It probably wouldn't be compatible with what TDS is looking for in this case.
Typically, temporary easements are project related. For instance, I need access to get through your property to another property, and I want to lay a dewatering pipe across your property for a time certain. But in this case of the utilities, they tend to be more permanent. Supervisor Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is more of a comment just based off of this is downtown Wausau, and I understand how difficult it is to get, because this is for internet, correct? And I understand how difficult it is to get internet to various buildings in the downtown Wausau area. So that's just something I think we should consider. On the other end of that, because the place that I work at, we can't get TDS to our place because the underground is so old and there's so many things that it's just not possible to bring that underground. But with that being said, we found alternatives. So, there are ways to get internet to a building without going through the ground. So this isn't really a comment in support or against it. It's just kind of something to consider. Thank you.
All right, what are your wishes? What are your wishes? Chair Gibbs.
I'd make a motion that we not approve a permanent utility easement for TDS and ask them to look for other alternatives.
Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Zhang. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That motion carries unanimously. Next will be the discussion and possible action on reconsideration of alternative funding source for Phase A closure project at Marathon County Solid Waste Landfill. I think the appropriate issue would be to have a motion for reconsideration to get it before us. And then we can, the purpose is to evaluate funding sources. So somebody that voted in the majority at the last meeting would need to make that motion. Chair Gibbs.
Make a motion to reconsider the funding sources for the Bluebird Ridge closure project.
Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Lemon. On the discussion, who would like to lead the discussion? Dan, are you going to? Or Dave? I'm sorry, Dave. At 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Do we need to vote on reconsideration?
I think that would make sense, Mr. Chair, because without that vote, the issue is not
All
before the
right,
committee.
so we need to have a vote on the motion to reconsideration, then we'll get into the discussion. So all those in favor of reconsideration will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
Aye.
All right, that carries unanimously. So now we have the topic before us, but no motion before us. So go ahead.
Back to where you were prior to the approval of it.
Do we have a motion? Is the motion before?
The previous motion is currently on the floor as if you hadn't voted on it.
Okay, I stand corrected. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank the Finance Committee for their focused questions last week, and our Finance Director. It really allowed us to evaluate the various options, specifically as it related to that advance from the county's general fund. We were able to identify an alternative approach that would just be an interdepartmental budget transfer. There seemed to be some confusion and misunderstanding on the availability of these funds due to some very specific DNR regulations under Chapter 289 and the owner financial responsibility laws. Recent confirmation with those DNR standards confirmed use since our owner financial responsibility is under a letter of credit, not that escrow account. This is a closure balance that resides on the county's books, not U.S. Bank, and it is funded through the tipping fees at the site. So thank you again for our finance director's assistance and the really great questions that this committee brought forth. So this would be an alternative approach.
So the issue before us would basically be to take the revised motion as a substitute, introduce it as a substitute amendment, or amend it to incorporate those provisions. Which would you prefer?
I think a substitute amendment is probably cleaner.
I would think so too. All right, so what this does is, if you recall at the last meeting, we took money out of the contingency fund, made it as a loan to them to be paid back over a time certain with 3% interest rate internal, and this, there's no longer a need for that because of the funding with the environmental repair fund, so we need to flip the funding sources to reflect the discussions that have taken place in the last week. And that substitute amendment would do that. Chair Gibbs.
I'll make a motion to approve the substitute motion to approve the funding as outlined on the current funding sources.
Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Leahy. Any discussion? Everybody understands the motion? Not all is in favor of adoption of the substitute amendment will signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries. Now the issue before us is adoption of the motion as amended by adoption of the substitute amendment. Any discussion? If not, all is in favor of adoption of the motion incorporating the substitute amendment will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
no. That motion carries. All right. Do any members have issues that they want to bring up for future discussion? I think we've got a pretty full agenda going forward, and we've got a pretty full January 11th meeting. If not, our next meeting is then January 11th at 3. Be prepared for a little bit longer meeting, potentially. We've got a number of items we're carrying over. So we're now down to item 9. What are your wishes?
Move to adjourn.
Been moved. Second. And seconded by Supervisor Strong.
Second.
Seconded by Marshall. to adjourn. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are adjourned, and we'll see you at 7 o'clock tonight.